Before we start this episode, let me be very clear on one thing. You do not have to teach your child to read before kindergarten. I'm going to be talking about teaching your child to read before kindergarten, but you don't have to do it. You're the parent. You get to choose how you want to approach early literacy with your child. So I just want to get that out of the way. This is not a video telling you that you have to teach your child to read before kindergarten. Today's topic is actually about why I think it's better to start teaching your child to read earlier than later. So that's why I wanted to make sure you understand. I'm not telling you that you have to teach your child to read before kindergarten, but what I am going to share with you are 5 reasons that I have found starting earlier with teaching your child to read and these early literacy skills is better than waiting until after they start kindergarten. Maybe I will convince you of my position and maybe I won't, and that's totally fine because we get to do what we think is best for our children. As parents, that is our job. I'm just here sharing some information that hopefully you find helpful, and if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. In case you're new here, my name is Erin. I'm from littleslovelearning.com. I'm a former classroom teacher turned parent reading coach. That's what I call myself. Basically, my job now is to help parents teach their kids to read at home correctly and effectively based on the science of reading. I never tell parents they have to teach their child to read at home, especially before kindergarten, but I am here for those who want to teach their kids to read at home, especially before kindergarten, because I want to make sure that parents have the right tools and the empowerment to teach their kids correctly. So again, today's video, we will see if you agree or disagree with me, but I want to share the 5 reasons I think that it is smart to start earlier when teaching your child how to read and starting with those early literacy skills so that when your child goes to kindergarten and heads to 1st grade, they are going to be all set. They are going to be confident and proud in their skills. The first reason, the earlier you start, the slower you can go. I know that seems counterintuitive, but when you start teaching your child to read really early, you actually have no rush whatsoever. You can take your time learning all of those early literacy skills. You don't have to rush. There's no emergency. So what happens is some parents don't do any early literacy skill activities with their kids. Their kids go to kindergarten and all of a sudden this whole new world is opened up for them. And maybe it's overwhelming and they can't take it all in. So they're struggling learning their letters and sounds, or they're struggling with blending those sounds together to read words, or they're struggling with their spelling because they don't know how to match the sounds to the printed letters. There are all of these skills that they're expected to learn once they go to kindergarten. Because they haven't had that long runway before kindergarten, it's all of a sudden a rush to teach them. They walk into kindergarten on that first day and maybe they don't know anything. And by the end of the year, they're expected to read maybe 50 high frequency words. Maybe they're expected to be able to read 20 decodable words. Maybe they're expected to be able to spell words and write sentences and read books. That's a huge learning curve in 1 year of school. They come in not knowing anything, and by the end, they're expected to be able to read and spell. That's so fast. So I am of the opinion that the earlier you start, the slower you can go. Your child does not need to feel rushed. They don't need to feel stressed or pressured to learn all of this in 1 year because you've been working on it for multiple years at home. So what does that look like when you start earlier? Well, you can start learning the letters and sounds early in a fun and playful way that is not stressful, that is not boring. You can incorporate it into the games that you're playing. When you start earlier, if your child is having a hard time remembering those letters and sounds, you don't have to feel stressed because you're going to give them lots of time to learn. You're going to be consistent, be creative with your play, and you're going to give them lots of time to learn. And if they're having a hard time learning those skills and you've been doing it for a few years, by the time they are walking into kindergarten, you already know that something might not be clicking correctly. Maybe their processing is a little bit slower. Maybe they're struggling, and you can get them intervention right away at the beginning of kindergarten. How awesome is that? Because I will tell you, early intervention is key. So if your child is struggling and you've already identified that even before they go to kindergarten, that's incredible because then they can jump into kindergarten getting the support they need, and you don't have to wait until they're in 1st or 2nd grade to get support. So all of these are wonderful things that come out of starting earlier. Now, when I say starting earlier, please know that I'm not saying sitting your child down with worksheets and flashcards and drilling this into their brain. If you've watched any of my videos, I'm sure you know that is not how I teach. That is not my personality, and that is not what I believe is best for kids. We do it in a fun, playful, joyful way that creates these beautiful memories with our kids. And they don't even realize that they're not supposed to like learning. They love learning. And so they don't realize, oh my gosh, my mom is teaching me the alphabet and she shouldn't be teaching me this yet because I'm not even in kindergarten. Of course, they don't know that. They just know that they're having fun with you and that you're teaching them something new, opening up this whole new world for them. How awesome is that? So my first reason why I think you should start earlier is because the earlier you start, the slower you can go. You have a much longer runway before things become an emergency. Reason number 2, you should start earlier, in my opinion, it's because of brain development. So 90% of our children's brain development happens before they go to kindergarten. It happens in the first 5 years of life. They are making so many neural connections during those 5 years. They are learning so much. So why would we take those 5 years, that first 5 years of their life, and say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do any literacy work at all in these 5 years because that's too early. We're going to wait till they go to kindergarten before we start doing this literacy work. It doesn't make any sense because their brain is learning and developing and changing and making these connections in that first 5 years. 90% of their brain development happens before they turn 5. So let's make sure we're capitalizing on all of this neural connections, these new neural pathways they're forming, and let's support them during this transitional time when their brain is developing. We can help them learn letters and sounds. We can help them play with the sounds in our language, which is called phonological and phonemic awareness, and we can set them up for success with these basic reading skills. We do not have to wait. We want to do it now while their brain is still developing. The third reason I think starting earlier with your child learning how to read is better is because of the confidence your child is going to feel when they walk into school, whether that's kindergarten or even first grade, and they are strong readers. Oh my goodness, it completely changes everything for them. If you have ever talked to a struggling reader, especially if they are now an adult, but they struggled when they were a kid, they will tell you that sticks with them. I know because my own husband was a struggling reader, and there are things that he remembers from that time, and he tells me how hard it was, and he remembers that now, even as an adult. So if your child is struggling, or if they are not getting the support that they need, that is going to stay with them. But let's say we started early, and we started working with our child on these reading skills when they were 3, 4, and 5 before they head to kindergarten. They are going to be so confident in themselves, and they are going to be a strong reader. And if they are not, if you can identify that there's a problem, like I mentioned earlier, you can get them the support that they need right away instead of waiting. And how awesome would that be? Because then they won't have to struggle for as long, and they won't have to have those memories of that hard time. So when you start earlier, you can build that confidence in them. And even if it is a little bit tough for them, but they overcome it, what an example that you're setting for them. Like, oh my gosh, this was a really hard word for you to read, and you did it. You didn't give up. You kept working at it. You figured out a different strategy that worked for you. I am so proud of you. I am so impressed with how hard you worked on this. Do you know what that does to a child when they hear those words, that they're a hard worker, that they don't give up? That becomes their inner voice. So that later on, when they're 16 and they're struggling with something, whether it's academic or social, they know, I don't give up. I get through things. I think of a different strategy. I think outside the box. I don't give up. I'm a hard worker. All of those things that you tell them when they're young, that's what they're going to remember when they're older. So when you're starting teaching your child how to read and you are building their confidence and they know they're a strong reader and they walk into kindergarten and the kindergarten teacher is teaching letters and sounds and blending and they're like, oh yeah, I did this with my mom. I know this. I remember this. It just is a different feeling. It's a different opportunity and experience for them in the classroom than it is for a child who comes in without any of those skills. So we want to make sure that we are giving our children the confidence to be a strong reader. If they are struggling, then we are finding that out early so that we can get them intervention And that is going to have a lifelong impact on them and their confidence and the way they think of themselves. The fourth reason I recommend starting early with our little ones on this reading journey is you are unlocking the world of literacy for them. And that is going to be such a positive experience. This is what I don't understand when people give me pushback on teaching kids how to read. They will say things to me like, it's not developmentally appropriate. Kids shouldn't be learning how to read at this age. This is not necessary. Have you ever asked a child that can read early if they liked learning how to read early or not? Because I will tell you, my own two kids who were both reading before kindergarten loved that they were able to read because it unlocked the world of literacy for them. In fact, my daughter, who is 10, I was telling her recently that someone gave me a little pushback on an Instagram post and said that kids don't learn how to read until 7 or 8 in other countries. And I asked her, I said, how would you feel if you didn't learn how to read until you were 7? And she said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have liked that at all. She's been reading since she was 3. She said, I would have figured it out anyways, because she loves reading. She would not have wanted to be held back from reading. That's what I think about sometimes when people are advocating for waiting and not pushing reading because reading is not developmentally appropriate for our little ones yet. I would love for them to talk to a child who read early, maybe a child who struggled. What do they want? What do they think? Not every child is going to learn at the exact same age. You have to know your child best. Some kids are ready to learn earlier. My daughter was an example of that. Also, my son, he was able to learn how to read before kindergarten as well because I knew the steps to take him through to teach him correctly, and we made it fun. And it's so cool to unlock that world of literacy for them. They're both voracious readers. They love to read. And in fact, recently when we were on a trip, my son was reading a guidebook for kids about the country that we were visiting. And he was telling us facts about this country. He's 5. And he was able to read on his own facts and information about a new country, take it in, and then tell us. I didn't have to read the book to him. I didn't have to give him all those facts. He can now learn on his own. How incredible is that? That's why I don't understand why people look at this as such a negative and such a bad thing to do. We are unlocking the world of literacy for our kids, and we are doing it in a fun and joyful way. I see no negative side to that. And kids love when the world of literacy is unlocked for them. They love being able to read on their own, so they don't have to wait for mom or dad to read them a book. They love being able to read signs. They love being able to take that information in. That's what we give our kids. And when we can start earlier, and we have this long runway, like I mentioned earlier, to get them to a place where they can read independently, it's such a beautiful journey. And the fifth reason that I advocate for teaching your child to read early is that it is fun. Kids love to have fun. They are silly and goofy, and they love anything that's fun. So when you are teaching your child to read early and you can incorporate all of the fun and engaging activities with them, they don't know they're not supposed to be having fun. They don't know they're not supposed to be learning. They don't think, oh, wow, I shouldn't be learning this alphabet yet. All they know is that it's fun and that they're enjoying it. It's so cool when your child is little, how easily it is to have fun with them. I know it's different when your child gets older. As I mentioned, my daughter is 10, and maybe she doesn't find the same things funny that she did when she was 5, the age of her brother. He is so easy to engage, especially in these academic activities, to make them fun. Really simple things make him laugh. I mean, everything is just joyful and playful when you're that age. And so it makes it much easier for us as parents to teach our kids to read at that age because it's still fun. Once we wait, and we wait till our kids are in school, or we wait till they are struggling and that they're not being able to pick up the letters and sounds, or they're not able to blend and read fluently, and then we try to start working with them, it's a totally different dynamic. It's different because they know that it's hard for them. They know that they're struggling, and that brings about a whole different set of feelings than when you're working with your child when they're 3, 4, and 5, and none of those feelings are there yet. They're not lacking confidence. They're not having self-doubt. They're not telling themselves this is so hard. It's a completely different mindset. They're just having fun. They're just learning. They're joyful. They don't know that they're supposed to be reading or not reading. They're just having fun. So that's why I think it's so cool when we can start our kids early, because it makes it so much easier to engage them, and it just makes it it's just a different feeling, makes it more joyful, makes it more enjoyable than when we're trying to remediate or get intervention for a child that's struggling. So start early, have fun along the way, have that long runway so that when they get to school, they have the confidence, they have the skills they need, they can build upon those skills in school, and you can support them at home, and it's going to be a much better situation for them. So now I would love your opinion. What do you think about my 5 reasons why you should start teaching your child to read early? Notice that I didn't say your child should be reading chapter books by the time they go to kindergarten. Notice I didn't say they should even be reading picture books by the time they go to kindergarten. But you can set the foundation for them to learn how to read. They can be reading basic words, simple words. They can understand the way reading works and the way our language works before they go to kindergarten. And the 5 reasons that I shared, they worked for my family. They're reasons that I taught my kids to read early. And I would love to know how you feel about these reasons. If you think that working with your child before kindergarten on reading is something that is appropriate, something that you would like to do, or maybe you disagree with me, and that's okay too, because like I said, we can all do what's best for our own kids. If you do want to work with your child at home on reading and have that long runway before they go to kindergarten to work on these skills, I want you to grab my freebie about the 5 steps to reading success. The link is down below, so you can click on that, enter your information, and I will send this freebie to you. It's going to give you a big overview of how kids learn how to read and the 5 steps they need to follow in order to be strong readers. These are perfect steps for you to follow when your child is still young, before they go to kindergarten. If your child's already in school, maybe they're struggling, you want to make sure that you review those steps to see if there are any holes. Where are they struggling? What are the holes that you need to patch before they can move on and become a stronger reader? So make sure you check out that freebie. Again, the link is down below. So click on that, enter your information, and then you will get that freebie sent directly to you. If you have questions about this or anything else I share here on my channel, please comment down below. You can also find me on my website, littleslovelearning.com. I'm also active on social media, so if you are on Instagram or Facebook, please find me. My handle is @littleslovelearningblog. I would love to hear your opinion on this. I would love to talk more about the importance of early literacy skills and the best ways to teach our kids to read and spell. That is my jam. That is my passion. That's what I do. And I would love to talk more with you about it. Until next time, happy learning. Bye.